Rennae Stubbs is a Grand Slam champion. She is a coach. She is one of the faces of ESPN's coverage of this year's U.S. Open. She is my very, very best bud. Hello, how are you holding up?
I'm holding up. I actually got a night off yesterday, which was really lovely. But to be honest, it's been a long week, but it hasn't been as long because you have been hosting my show, so that's helped.
Rennae is the normal host of the Power Hour with Rennae Stubbs that airs at 5 p.m. on Amazon Prime Sports. Check it out. It's streaming. And if you love tennis, if you're watching this, it is an absolute must-watch because it's a bunch of tennis nuts who just talk nothing but tennis all day long and some other feel-good storylines, too. What to you, Rennae, has been the most notable storyline of this year's Open so far?
Well, I think probably the most notable is the fact that there's not been a really arduous men's five-setter on Ash as well. So that's probably something that we've talked about a little bit in the press room and certainly at ESPN. We haven't had that that match, although Novak Djokovic going 5 sets yesterday sort of put a bit of a scare into the men's tournament. But there's just this weird feeling that even with Novak down 2 sets to love, that he was still going to win the match. And he won it fairly comfortably in the end, the third, fourth and fifth set. But look, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's kind of gone to, there was a few upsets early on. The women have been pretty good. We lost Maria Sakkari in the first day, but she hasn't really been playing that well coming into the US Open when she made finals to Washington. But really, it's been a bit of a struggle this year. But really, the fact that all the seeds have gotten through, the Americans are doing awesome. Coco winning in 3 sets last night was certainly a bit of a shock to a lot of people that, oh no, don't lose. But I'd say the seeds all getting through is pretty great.
Coco and Carolyn WOZNIACKI, I imagine, is a match that ESPN and all tennis fans are salivating over, despite the fact that we haven't really seen that gritty 5-setter on the men's side. This might be, so far, the match of the tournament in terms of hype. How do you see this one going with the way these two pair against one another?
Well, we talked about it at the start of the tournament that the top half of the draw on both the men's and the women's were absolutely the most salivating quarterfinals. If they get there, there's just still another match to go. But you think about Iga and Coco, and up the top for the men's is Alcaraz and Sinner. So, if we get those quarterfinals at the top, it's going to be a great day for the ticket holders, that's for sure. But I think, look, Coco getting through a couple of tough matches is going to help her against Iga, just because Iga's been smashing everyone. So a little bit of adversity for Coco may help her getting through to playing someone like Iga. And if you're Iga, you're feeling pretty confident going into any match. And even if you lost the last time you played, I think she'll be very aware, if they meet, how good Coco's playing now. So I think she might be a little bit more switched on to that and be a little bit more aware of what she needs to do. But listen, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. If we see it, if we see the match, we get them there, it'll be awesome.
Are you surprised at all by the run that Carolyn WOZNIACKI has put together?
Not really. This is a former world number one for not a week. She's one of the top 10 of all time as far as holding number one ranking. So, no, her composure on the court is she always had composure, but the fact that she really has composure no matter what's going on out there is really impressive to watch. And I think that's that's the epitome of a champion, that they can walk onto a court no matter how big the size. But she loves New York. She loves playing here. She has an apartment here. So I'm not surprised. I thought she was not lucky to get out of that match yesterday with Jen Brady because she ended up smoking her in the third. But Jen had an opportunity, had 2 points on her own serve to go up a set and 3 love. That was huge for Jenny Brady just physically. But as far as the physicality of what WOZNIACKI's doing, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, you always talk about how fit she is. It was tough to figure out who to root for in that match because we've talked, you and I, about everything that Jenny Brady has been through, and to be able to get back to this point and this stage is just incredible. Going back to Novak for just a moment, I think some tennis insiders might have not necessarily called it that he would be down 2 sets in that match and have to kind of claw his way back and ultimately win it comfortably. But I think they did identify that match with his countrymen as one that might not be a complete walk in the park. I think you might have been one of them, no?
No, I didn't think that Novak would have a problem the way he did. I thought he would have a tough match, but I didn't think he'd get down 2 sets to love. But, these are the sort of matches you have to get through, and his opponent clearly knew him very well. They're from the same country, so they know sort of each other's strengths and weakness. So it wasn't a complete shock, but to go down 2 sets to love. Now that was a bit of a surprise.
What do you make of how Frances Tiafoe looks at this tournament, aside from the fact that he's such a showman and he relishes this opportunity? You've spoken at length on ESPN over the last couple of U.S. Opens about how he's evolved as a person and a player, taking himself more seriously, and it seems like this is the target slam for an American that wants to separate themselves or prove themselves. I know you had a chance to speak with him. You've been covering him closely. What are your takeaways there?
I mean, he just loves New York. He loves the fans. The energy that he gets here is outrageous. I mean, Louis Armstrong there was literally not a seat in the house. It was packed. When I walked on the court to interview him after the match, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God, the noise and just everything about Francis. And I think he thrives on it. He lost the first set, so I'm sure that was a bit of a surprise and a bit of a shock to his system. But the way he handled the second, third, and fourth sets, especially the fourth set tie break, I think he thrives on the attention, the love he gets. He's talked about that in the past, how he plays better when he has a huge crowd, but he has a huge crowd everywhere these days. But I think these American guys are pushing each other. Tommy Paul getting out of a real hole the other night, down 2-0. And coming back now, he looks fantastic. He was who I picked to go furthest of all the Americans. But I tell you what, Taylor is playing so good. So I think that Taylor Fritz is sort of putting the batten down for the American guys and saying, hey, clean it up because I'm winning really easily. So I think they're all pushing each other to get further and further in this tournament. They're all in the same half of the draw. So you never know.
Yeah, I was going to mention the draw. I think the American men, that trio of American men, is the most compelling storyline to me, at least so far. And I know it's early days, but we had Kara Connor actually on your show on Amazon Prime Sports last week because she profiled Tommy Paul. I think it was 2 years ago. And she said, hey, everybody keep an eye out for this guy. Look at this guy. He's going to be a star. He's the real deal. Is he the real deal?
Such a hard worker. So I don't think there's many that work harder than him, that are as fit as him, that are as quick as him around the court, and he doesn't miss. And not only all of those things, he has a bit of an unusual forehand style, so it doesn't look that pretty or sexy to watch him, but he is such a grinder and he's so quick. And now that he's beaten Alcaraz and he's had these wins and got to the semifinals of the Grand Slam like he did at the Australian Open, he really is starting to believe in himself. And why not? You've beaten the number one player in the world. You've made a semifinal of a Grand Slam. So why not start thinking about yourself as a top 10 great player? And I think he's starting to believe it.
That side storyline with that little fan in the stands, that is his number one
so
fan.
Cute.
It's just absolutely adorable as well. I mean, if you don't like that, I just don't want to know you because it's so cute. I hope it's not too distracting moving forward because that little kid is becoming such a star. But you mentioned the mental fortitude, the toughness, the confidence factor, and you and I have talked at length about this in the past, that tennis is such a mental game. Nobody knows it more than you. What advice would you give a player who might not be as comfortable as, say, Frances Tiafoe with the U.S. Open environment, particularly this year when it seems like it continues to get not just louder and louder as the loudest slam, but maybe less and less classy as the nights go on?
I think one thing I would say to all the fans is yell and scream as much as you want, because we love that environment at US Open. I mean, I was just talking to Sam Stosur, who's a former champion here, about that yesterday. And, every Grand Slam has its uniqueness. Australia has that, it's known as the happy slam, and everyone just loves sports down there so much. And the French is a little bit more sort of very Parisian flair, and everyone's got the hats on in the president's box. And it's Paris, so it's a little packed up, and you've got the beauty of the city and the food and the joie de vivre, and then you get to Wimbledon, it's the silence, right? It's the quiet, it's the no sponsorship. It's everything. You can hear everything. You can hear the ball bounce. You can hear someone's heartbeat, you feel like, as a player, And then you get here and it's the noise. It's the craziness. Everyone knows that's every Grand Slam is a little different. I would just ask the fans, in between first and second serve, and try and be a little bit nicer to the player in those circumstances. I don't mind cheering for your favorite player and all that sort of stuff. It's just the don't be not classy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's in between first and second serve. So I'm like, come on, guys, we're better than this. So those are the little things. I don't mind the cheering and screaming. It's just in between serves and in the point that I have an issue with.
Just having an awareness of when to do it, I think, is so key, because you don't want to have a reputation of being sort of the rude, classless slam. I love the reputation of having it be the loudest slam.
Listen, the French are they're as partisan and as bad. They whistle, they're pretty bad. So it's a competition between the French Open and the US Open, who's got some very parochial fans that are not so nice.
And we haven't even mentioned Carlos Alcaraz yet, as we just have another minute or two, and then I'll let you go. But it's funny. He's just sort of doing his own thing, handling things his own way, and not even it's almost like not worth a mention because there's nothing to really see yet. I mean, he's just doing what he does.
He's learned from the best. He hates getting compared to Roger, Novak, and Nadal. But he is a combination of all of them. He has that fun spirit and that, just everyone likes him, and he says hello to everyone like Roger. I mean, Roger's very similar to that. It's kind of like he never grew up, Roger. He goes into a press conference and answers 1,000 questions in 3 different languages, and he's happy to do it. And he's always happy. Rafa's kind of in between, a little bit. He's shy, but he grew into being that guy that everyone and affable. And then Novak's kind of like a mixture of the good guy, the bad guy, and he's great. When he does some bad things, but he has that ability on the court to move like Alcaraz, and Alcaraz has learned to move that. So I think Alcaraz has learned from all of them about what's going to make him popular and also what makes him super, super good on the tennis court. So I think he's taken all those lessons from what he's seen and what works and who becomes popular. And he's just the most likable kid.